Emu-sama has just revealed a new level to his power, which might have given us the final hint needed to pinpoint his devil fruit of the Sea Devil. He will use this power of the Abyss Mark to assert his Domi-Reversi over Luffy, turning him into Ivanica. While Loki, wielding the legendary Soul God fruit of Elbaf, will heat up the one's Domi-Reversi to bring them out of the devils. I believe that Loki will accompany the Straw Hats in their next quest against Emu in the world government, maybe even becoming a Straw Hat himself. As you know, we have a fishman in the crew now, but not a giant. However, Loki's main goal after Elbaf arc is going to be finding the Galila giants, which Rox asked him to do in their final meeting. But I will get deeper into Loki's role at the end of the video, which has a lot to do with his legendary Soul God fruit. But before we reach that point, we must go back to 15 years ago. It's finally time for Elbaf to become a member nation. Harold also gets to see the Great One Emu-sama, where he says that after Elbaf becomes a member nation, he will give up the throne of Elbaf. A younger, more virtuous ruler than himself should take over. This highlights how Harold sees himself in the grand scheme of things. He was just a tool for Elbaf's prosperity. He is too tainted to be called king. That's why he broke off his horns, which represented his giant's pride. However, in a shocking decree, Emu reviews his hand. He says that it is up to him to decide who will become king of Elbaf, as he is the true king of the world. By joining the government, it doesn't give any nation equal rights. Instead, they become subjugated to the whims of the true ruler in the dark, Emu-sama. He instantly casts his spell on Harold, and the old Shallow Sea Mark transforms into one with horns on it. Harold says that this has given him an insane power boost, and it feels very cold, which comes from their mortality power. It sends shivers down the spine. St. Vitus says that Harold isn't a monster anymore, but a fierce weapon for Emu. And as his first order, Harold must carve an abyss pentagram in Elbaf, which will mark the bond between Emu and the giants. Harold, meanwhile, is just happy that Elbaf has become part of the government now. It's time for celebration. After the pentagram is made, the decades-long dream is complete. However, the devil reveals his deceit. He orders Harold to mobilize the entire nation to form a grand army of warriors. They will stand alongside the Marines as a government force. This is literally what Harold has been fighting against for his people all this time, to be not seen as just warriors. But Emu, ever since the beginning, only viewed the giants as weapons. Harold was tricked into this deal. He screams that he did everything to keep Elbaf away from violence. If anyone in the country wants to fight and be a warrior, he will allow them to do so, even join the Marines. But there are those who want to go to school and become educated. They shouldn't be forced into a military without choice. Emu says that Harold's power isn't enough to atone for Elbaf's history of violence against the world. Even if every giant becomes a slave, the price wouldn't be enough to be paid. Harold is absolutely devastated at this point. Emu has complete control over him through the Deep Sea Pact. He says that now, Harold can't disobey Emu's orders. Those with the contract gain immortality and power, but it comes at the cost of their freedom. Harold will carry out Emu's orders regardless of how he feels. That's why Shanks left before getting the second tier mark. Which means that Shanks had already found out all he needed to know about Emu and the government, because Harold didn't know what the pact even meant until now, after he was taken over. But Shanks might have. And where did he go right after leaving Marishwa? To Elbaf, likely to warn Harold. But he was too late. Quickly, the king starts losing control of his own body, realizing finally that the government never meant for Elbaf to become part of the world. In his final gambit, using all his haki, he orders guards to restrain him to a pillar in the castle and summon the strongest in Elbaf, Elder Jarl, his son Loki, and Harudin. But Harudin is still at sea, trying to find a cure for his mother, while Loki is imprisoned. Harold says it doesn't matter, just let him out. He is summoning these people because he knows Harold must be defeated in order to stop Elbaf's enslavement by Emu. Throughout our interactions with Emu's powers, the Gorosei and Harold mention how it feels cold and chilly to be given Emu's immortality. Emu even has a cold-ass freezer in the basement of Marishwa, and the abyss is likely referring to the dark parts of the sea, because the pacts are named after levels of the ocean. Shallow Sea Pact, Deep Sea Pact, and the sea floor, or the Deep Sea Pact. Which makes me think that Emu definitely has the sea devil fruit, which gives him the power of the abyss. You know how we have only mapped out like what, 5% or 10% of the ocean's floor in our world? And every few years we learn of some new giant creature deep in the ocean. It's possible that the One Piece world is similar. Emu has the power of the depths of the ocean. The area is also extremely cold, well, because there's an absence of sunlight there. Just like how the world of One Piece for 800 years has been shrouded in darkness, cold, and desolate due to the devil at the top, until sun god Nika brings the warmth of liberation back into the planet. Now, how would Loki's fruit work to dispel Emu from Herald? Well, because the legendary fruit in Elbaf is actually the soul god fruit, that doesn't stretch like Nika's, but burns like the raw plasma of the sun. You see, the sun isn't just hot, but it's uncontainable just like Loki. It's a fusion furnace made of plasma, which is the fourth state of matter. And guess what else is plasma? Lightning. And Loki's Ragnir might be a weapon designed to control this godly power. If we go back to chapter 1151, the roots of Elbaf's atom tree caught fire, and the skies turned white when Loki used his lightning hammer. The fruit wasn't granting power, but was burning everything on sight. Just like Nika makes Luffy laugh, Soul makes Loki burn and destroy everything around him, which is why he disappeared. Then, Shanks, the symbolic Norse mythological god, Skoll, had to intervene. Because in Norse mythology, Skoll chases the sun until Ragnarok, and Loki, in myth, becomes fire itself, aiming to burn down Valhalla. In One Piece, the Valhalla is the Holy Land. Furthermore, this fruit is one of Emu's greatest fear. That's why Elbaf wasn't touched for centuries. The heat from Loki's soul fruit can dispel the chilling immortality and Domi-Reversi of Emu-sama. Furthermore, in his last gambit, I believe Emu will try to take over Luffy, basically Domi-Reversing him. However, he will quickly realize that he can't control Nika. Luffy instead will get juiced by Emu's power. We saw something similar in chapter 426, all the way back in Thriller Bark, when they implanted 100 shadows into Luffy to create Nightmare Luffy. He kept control. Furthermore, the corpse of Ors, who had Luffy's shadow, which has the power of his fruit, started to disobey Moria. He wanted to be free and exhibited a Nika-like personality, proving the wielder of the Nika fruit can't be Domi-Reversi'd or controlled by someone else. Chopper even says that Moria is reversing nature to manipulate the properties of his shadows. Now, when we get back to the present, Loki will use his soul fruit powers to un-Domi-Reversi the giants, worming them away from the devil's control, while Luffy, using his Nika fruit powers, will stretch his haki to a level that knocks Emu out of the country. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. I'll see you guys next One Piece video.